Welcome back. Where we finished all these top ones, and we actually realized that they skipped a step for us. Instead of making us set up the equation, they just told us the ratio that those two numbers would make. And that's what was right there. So it's kind of an interesting way to ask a question. Okay, so let's take our card and work on the back, and let's finish this up. You probably feel pretty good about it. So you might just be looking for checking your answers. So let's do it. My angle, I have nothing over here for opposite, so I'm forced to pick cosine. So this is adjacent and hypotenuse. So the cosine of an angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the measure of angle A would be the inverse cosine of 8/17. Round to the nearest degree. 62. Okay, here we got opposite. Here's our hypotenuse. Nothing there on the hypotenuse. So when we don't have an hypotenuse, we pick tangent. So the tangent of an angle is opposite over adjacent. So the measure of the angle would be the inverse tangent round to the nearest degree. All right, nothing over here on the opposite side. So that leaves me my adjacent and my hypotenuse. That's my cosine. So the cosine of an angle is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So the measure of angle A would be the inverse cosine of 26/45. And we're going to round to 55 degrees. Ooh, they gave us all the information, so really cool. Here, I can pick any one I want and they'll work. So I don't know about you, but I actually like probably sine the best. So a sine is opposite over hypotenuse, just because it's the first one I learned. So the sine of an angle is 76/95. Okay, let's say you had picked, I don't know, you could have picked cosine. The cosine of an angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. So if you picked cosine, you would have had to set it up 57/95. And last but not least, if you would have picked tangent, which also you could have done, you would have picked opposite over adjacent. So you would have set up 76/57. So you don't have to set up all three, but all three would give you the right answer, and we're gonna prove it. It's gonna be exciting. Okay, so the measure of angle A would be the inverse sine of 76/95. So let's figure out what that would be. 76/95, enter inverse sine. Okay, so we're gonna round to the nearest degree, so that's 53 degrees. Okay, now let's do this cosine one. Okay, so a different ratio, because cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the measure of angle A would be the inverse cosine of 57/95. Should give us the same answer, so let's try this out. 57/95. Enter inverse cosine. Whoa, voila, same exact number. Okay, now we're going to try it with the tangent. The measure of angle A would be the inverse tangent of 76/57. Voila, same exact number. So that goes to show you that you can pick any trig function you want. Let's look at this one. This would be opposite. This would be the hypotenuse. So this time I'm not going to go to all that trouble. I'm just going to pick whichever one is your favorite. My favorite happens to be sine. So the measure of angle A would be the inverse sine of 44 over 55. Oh, weird. That's the same answer as the other problem. It's kind of cool. So here I have the angle 53 degrees rounded to the nearest. Let me type that in one more time. 44 divided by 55, second sine. Yep. So these two triangles must be similar because they have the same angles. They have a 90-degree angle, a 53-degree angle, and whatever's left over will be whatever's left over be the same number. Cool. Okay. I'm going to do this one using sine. It doesn't matter which one you use. So the sine of an angle is opposite over hypotenuse. So the measure of angle A would be the inverse sine of 39 over 65. Okay, and I'm going to round that number to the nearest degree, so 37 degrees. Cool. Let's keep it going. Okay, now this is back to I gotta pick. So I gotta pick the one that uses adjacent and hypotenuse because there's nothing here at the opposite side. So that would be cosine. The cosine of an angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the measure of angle A would be the inverse cosine of 13 over 18. Round that to 44 degrees. All right, now this one is opposite. Nothing here on the adjacent side. If this triangle is too squishy, remember you can redraw the triangle, make it a little bit bigger, make it more obvious which side's opposite and adjacent. But it looks like I'm going to pick sine. So sine of an angle, opposite over hypotenuse. So the measure of angle A would be the inverse sine of 51 over 54. Round to the nearest degree, so 71 degrees. All right, I got opposite hypotenuse, so that's going to be sine. Sine of an angle is opposite over hypotenuse. So the measure of angle A is the inverse sine of 16 over 19. Rounds to 57 degrees. All right, again, it gets a little squishy, so don't be afraid to redraw this triangle. This is the angle we're solving for. This length is 21, this length is 72, and the hypotenuse is 75. So I can use any of the trig functions. I tend to just use sine. Opposite, this would be my hypotenuse. The biggest number is my hypotenuse. So the sine of this angle would be opposite 72 over the hypotenuse 75. So the measure of angle A would be the inverse sine 72 over 75, rounded to the nearest degree. $74 degrees. Same thing, I can pick any of the three trig functions. So this is opposite hypotenuse. So the sine of angle A is 72 over 97. The inverse sine is 72 over 97. Will tell you the measure of angle A, rounded to the nearest degree. Degrees. 48 degrees. Okay, last one. It's getting a little squishy. So we're just going to redraw that triangle. This is the angle I'm looking for, 24, 70, 74. Okay, so this would be the opposite side. That's definitely the hypotenuse, the biggest number. So the sine of the angle would be opposite 70 over the hypotenuse 74. The measure of angle A would be the inverse sine of 70 over 74. Okay. Rounding to the nearest degree. Fabulous. Great job, guys. See you in class.